We take a stack of source material, sift through the noise, and bring you the core nuggets of wisdom.
And today, we are going deep on a name that everyone knows.
Jennifer Lopez.
Exactly. And that name, it immediately conjures images of, blockbuster movies, sold-out tours, entrepreneurial dominance, just a global force.
A brand.
A total brand. But what our sources give us today is something a little different. It's a rare look behind that curtain, focusing on this incredibly demanding and I think intensely human conflict she's facing.
And what's that?
It's the relentless balancing act. The balancing act of a superstar mother who is navigating the evolving emotional and, frankly, logistical needs of her now 17-year-old twins, Emme and Max.
Okay, so let's unpack this crucial material, because we're not interested in gossip here, right?
Yeah.
We're using these specific, very high-profile anecdotes as a lens for some, universal truths.
That's the whole point.
We've collected excerpts from a very visual Thanksgiving Instagram post from November 28th. We also have some deeply candid reflections she shared in interviews with People magazine from back in February 2022.
And maybe the most revealing piece of all, her intimate conversation on the SiriusXM Howard Stern show from October 15th. It's quite a collection of sources.
So what's the mission? What are we trying to find here?
The mission really is to extract the transferable knowledge.
Right.
We want to understand the evolution of parenting, not just in the public eye, but really for any highly driven professional.
So it's not just about her, it's about what her experience tells us about our own lives.
Exactly. The goal is to track the necessary psychological and, the logistical shifts she's had to make as her children transition from being young dependents into young adults. It's that shift.
The shift from being the primary caretaker to becoming, like an adaptive guide?
That's a perfect way to put it, an adaptive guide. And that shift is where the stress point lies for anyone listening, whether you're balancing a global tour or, balancing a board meeting schedule with soccer practice.
Right. And that tension, it starts immediately. It's perfectly captured in our first segment, where we're going to analyze the juxtaposition presented in that November 28th Thanksgiving feast.
Yes. So here you have Jennifer Lopez, a woman who the source material notes is 56, a true multi-hyphenate. Her schedule is dictated by market demand, global brand management, just immense pressure.
And yet the initial visuals of this post, they don't place her in a boardroom. They don't place her on a stage.
No. They place her squarely in the most traditional, grounding, domestic role imaginable. The kitchen, and she is visibly engaged in the labor of preparation, not just, posing there.
Let's focus on those immediate visual details because they're so specific. She's not just standing near the stove. She's wearing the lace-trimmed apron, and she is holding up this massive, perfectly cooked golden turkey.
Like a trophy.
It's exactly like a trophy. This is a very carefully curated moment, and it's designed to communicate one thing above all else.
Which is?
Despite the fame, despite the empire, she is hands-on. She is traditional, and she is prioritizing this grounding family ritual. She's present.
It's a deliberate projection of accessibility and, frankly, of effort. She is symbolically stating, I built this empire, sure, but I also cooked the bird. There's an and there, not an or.
And it gets more intimate, right?
Yeah.
The source also notes a specific bonding moment that was captured.
It does. There are photos of Lopez with a casually dressed Emme, and they're together checking on a cake that's been slipped into the oven. And this small detail, it's actually highly significant.
Why is checking the cake so important? I mean, it seems like such a minor thing.
Well, because it's a shared, quiet, collaborative task that is completely 100% detached from the demands of a Hollywood set or a recording studio. It's an unspoken dialogue.
An unspoken dialogue that says what?
It says, we are present in this moment, together, focusing on this one domestic creation. It underscores this prioritization of simple, shared moments, which, as you know, are often the first casualty of a high-intensity professional life.
They're the first thing to go. You outsource it, you delegate it, you skip it.
Right. But here, she's making a point of showing us she's not skipping it. And we have to look at the scope of the event, too. If you look deeper into the subsequent images, the ones detailing the Thanksgiving spread, the effort goes far beyond just a single turkey and one dessert.
It's an enormous feast.
It's huge. The source material detailed a massive variety of food, emphasizing both tradition and cultural inclusion.
So you saw the multiple sweet pies, yes, the classic American holiday fare.
Of course.
Yeah.
But also, you see these substantial portions of potato salad and various rice dishes. It's not just a Norman Rockwell painting.
And that culinary blend is, I think, absolutely crucial to understanding the family's identity curation. Well, the sweet pies and the potato salad, they provide that classical backdrop for the American holiday, right? But the inclusion of those rice dishes, and they're likely referencing dishes like arroz con gandules, that strongly weaves her Puerto Rican heritage into the celebration.
Ah, okay, so she isn't just hosting a holiday.
No, she's curating a culturally rich experience that reflects the complexity of her family's identity, saying, this is who we are. We are both of these things.
And this just underscores a high level of effort involved. This is not something where she just, relied on staff to cater a massive event.
No, the visuals are meant to imply she is actively involved in the creation and curation of this massive, culturally and logistically rich feast.
And this intense, grounded, domestic involvement, it sets up the perfect contradiction. It creates this incredible tension when we look at the final snaps from the post.
The moment where the work ends and the party begins.
Exact. The moment where the domestic labor ends and the hostess role begins.
It's the psychological whiplash of the celebrity quick change.
That's it. She takes off the apron, and the transformation it's instant. She is wearing an off-white silk shift dress.
And the source material makes a point to mention the shoes.
Oh, it does. It's paired with these truly impressive, towering, strappy pumps. The domestic persona is just shed like a second skin. And the public persona reclaims the stage.
This juxtaposition, the apron versus the silk dress and those towering heels, that really is the core tension of this whole section, isn't it?
It's everything. It reveals the impossible demand placed on the modern celebrity woman, especially one who also embraces motherhood so publicly.
1 minute, she is the grounded woman immersed in the physical reality of the kitchen. You know, the heat, the smells, the family life.
The next, she has instantaneously activated J.Lo, the brand. The flawless aesthetic, the maintained glamour, the symbol of aspiration that sells everything from perfume to movies.
And this isn't just about changing clothes. I mean, we all change clothes for a party. This is more than that.
Oh, much more. It implies an instantaneous, almost jarring cognitive and physical shift. She has to be fully present and authentic in the labor and the cooking.
But she must also be ready to switch modes completely and assume the highly artificial controlled projection of celebrity perfection for the final photo opportunity.
The analysis here really leads us to the psychological burden. This switch demonstrates the constant pressure to manage a perfect public persona alongside the messy realities of private needs.
So for you, the driven professional listening, this contrast illustrates that the search for balance, even with unlimited resources, often results in the performance of two separate roles.
Totally. She's performing the traditional role of the hands-on mother for the public, while simultaneously maintaining the professional requirement of constant glamour.
And if you extrapolate this,
Right.
it just means she is always...
Nice.
She can't just relax into that post-feast tiredness that we all feel, where you just want to sit on the couch.
No chance. She must manage the high standard of the meal and the high standard of the image. It's the ultimate expression of the having it all dilemma.
Where having it all actually requires a constant, exhausting toggling between these two extremes. High-maintenance glamour on one side and grounded, intense domesticity on the other.
It's a profound amount of work. And this Thanksgiving moment, which captures those simultaneous demands of cooking a turkey and curating a public image, it serves as a perfect backdrop to the deeper emotional work she's facing with her children.
Right, which is the transition we're going to track in Section 2.
Exactly.
That's right. That heavy lift we just discussed, the performance of it all, it takes on new weight when you factor in the crucial context of these family transitions.
Right, because this Thanksgiving post, it wasn't just a random event in a vacuum. It capped off a very busy, milestone-heavy period for her twins, Emme and Maximilian Max.
So we're shifting our focus now from the immediate visual evidence of the kitchen to the longer, more painful emotional timescale of parental reckoning.
A parental reckoning. I like that. Because these teenagers are reaching those critical developmental markers where the family dynamic must necessarily fracture a bit to allow for their independence.
It has to. It's part of the deal. And the source material specifically draws our attention to the Instagram story she shared back in August.
Marking Emmy's first day of senior year.
Yes. And if you're a parent, that moment, regardless of your professional success, your fame, your wealth, it just hits differently.
It's not just a new grade.
No, it's the beginning of the end of the residential childhood chapter. The clock is ticking very, very loudly at that point.
And this is where her private emotion really gives us the insight. What's fascinating here is the specific, almost visceral language she used in that post. It's language that reveals her internal struggle with the passage of time.
She calls Em this little coconut.
Little coconut.
Let's stay on that for a second. That term of endearment, which is so intimate and, I don't know, slightly proprietary, it tells a huge story.
What story does it tell you?
Well, a coconut implies something tiny, right? Something protected, something that belongs entirely to the parent and hasn't yet opened up to the world.
It's the language of early, intense caretaking.
Exactly. And it stands in such stark contrast to the reality of the situation, which is dropping off a 17-year-old, a young woman who is likely driving her own life choices and preparing for college applications.
You're not dropping off a coconut, you're dropping off a near adult.
And she knows this. The source material captured her struggle by noting that she paired that immediate reality with a deliberate throwback photo.
From a few years ago.
Right. She's openly struggling with the speed of time's passage. And her accompanying reflection was the universal parental sentiment that just cuts through all celebrity status.
She wrote, "It just reminds me that they'll always be my beautiful baby."
And that right there, that is the quintessential point of friction for any parent of a teenager. It's that conflict.
What conflict exactly?
You're looking at the young adult who is rapidly defining their own identity, choosing their own path, preparing to launch into the world.
But in your heart.
In your heart, you are desperately clinging to the memory and the image of the younger child you used to guide and, let's be honest, control entirely. It's a powerful emotional dissonance.
We could almost define this as the grief of growth.
The grief of growth.
Yeah. It's that complicated mix of joy and sadness that accompanies seeing your child succeed and venture out, combined with the sorrow that the intense, hands-on, controlling chapter of caretaking is now permanently closed. The relationship is transforming.
And that transformation for a parent, it often feels like a loss of proximity, a loss of control.
A loss of relevance sometimes.
I think we need to challenge that idea of grief just a little bit, though. While the sadness of time passing is obviously real, isn't some of that grief manufactured by our culture's idealization of young childhood?
Go on.
Especially for someone like J-Lo, who spent so many of those early years sacrificing consistent presence for professional success. Maybe the grief is compounded by the knowledge that she missed some of those easy, mundane moments she now sees slipping away entirely.
That's a really sharp point. It forces us to analyze the scarcity economics of her time.
The what now?
The scarcity economics of her time. For the highly successful professional, there is a profound, almost paralyzing regret when they realize the time they spent providing for a great life. That was time they could never, ever get back for consistent presence.
And the source material reveals she is physically and emotionally confronting that exact reality. She said, "They're not babies anymore," a sentiment she echoed in that February 2022 People story.
And that quote, that is the ultimate pivot point for a parent.
Why?
Because it acknowledges the end of an era. The era where you, the powerful, successful parent, can just grab them, take them on your lap, and tell them everything's going to be okay with a simple hug.
Right. That doesn't work anymore.
It's too late for that. They are too mature for that simple fix now. They need something much more complex.
They need validation of their feelings, respect for their burgeoning independence.
And nuanced guidance, not just simple comfort. They need a fundamentally different, almost adult-to-adult type of relationship.
And this realization, this is what sets the stage so powerfully for our next section.
The critical conversation.
The critical conversation that forced her to redefine her parenting approach entirely, linking her career choices directly to her children's emotional needs.
That's the critical link. We move now to section 3, the COVID catalyst and the critical conversation.
Before we dive into the critique they gave her, which is, wow.
Yeah.
Let's remember the baseline philosophy she expressed in that February 2022 People cover story.
Okay.
Her main priority, she said, is ensuring her children know how much they are loved. That's the constant, right? The emotional foundation she believes she had already established.
But as we know, love doesn't automatically translate into the form of presence that children require. And the emotional weight of the critique she received, which she bravely shared publicly on the October 15th SiriusXM Howard Stern show, was massive.
And it was massive precisely because it came from a place of necessary, unmet need. It wasn't just teenage rebellion.
Not at all. This is the moment of reckoning for Jennifer Lopez. She recounted how, during the pandemic slowdown, when she was home more consistently than ever before in their lives,
Right, the world stopped, even for her.
and the children finally felt safe and, I think, present enough to be completely candid with her, and their feedback, delivered directly, was both brutal and honest.
They said, "You're not a regular mom."
You're not a regular mom. That phrase,
Mm.
it is so loaded.
It's not an insult about her quality as a mother, is it? It's something else.
No, it's a cold, hard statement of observable fact based on their peer comparisons. It's data. And they didn't stop there. They gave specific, incredibly mundane comparison points that define consistency for a child.
They said, "You're not here every day."
And you don't drop us off and pick us up like the other parents?
That detail about the school run, that is the sharpest piece of insight in the entire source collection.
Why do you think that is?
Because for a high-profile person, they might assume that their definition of a great life, private schools, security, luxury, global travel, is what matters. That's the gift they're giving.
But the kids weren't using that metric.
Not at all. The kids were defining a great life, not by material provision, but by mundane consistency. The school run. The daily, visible, predictable presence of a mother who is subject to the same time constraints as other parents.
And this is where we need to spend some serious time analyzing the economics of presence.
Okay.
For a highly driven professional, their entire value proposition is based on scarcity and maximizing their time away from home. Their financial ROI is massive for every hour they're on a set or on a stage.
But when the children define regular by the consistent school run, which has zero financial ROI,
It flips the entire professional calculus on its head. It inverts it completely.
the children's feedback essentially forced a corporate executive, because that is what she is, an executive of the J.Lo brand, to see that her most significant business achievement, her career success,
Was directly responsible for creating her most significant personal failure, which was a lack of consistent presence.
wow. And the emotional weight, as she revealed, it all stemmed from realizing how much they needed me there. Not wanted, needed.
Think about the internal turmoil this must have caused. Her initial drive, which she stated very clearly, was to work harder to provide for her kids, to give them a great life.
She was operating under the traditional, maybe even an older definition of success.
Absolutely. The ability to provide financial security and material comfort, ensuring they never wanted for anything tangible.
But the pandemic, it acted as a slowdown device. It created the vacuum necessary for that crucial conversation to even happen.
That's such a key point. If her schedule had been business as usual, she might never have stopped long enough to hear the critique.
Or the children might not have had the consistent daily presence of their mother to even draw those comparisons so starkly. They wouldn't have known what they were missing.
So her pivot point was realizing, as she stated, that it wasn't just about me giving them a great life. The material comforts, the private jets, the security, these were all abundant, yes.
But they were secondary. They were secondary to the emotional bandwidth and the consistent reliability they required.
The children were trading provision for presence. It was a currency exchange, and she was using the wrong currency.
And if we look at this through the lens of a learner, someone who is balancing their own intense professional life, this is the deepest realization.
What is?
That your value to your children is not defined by your financial success, but by the reliability of your time. Her ultimate philosophical shift was from focusing on what she could give them to who she needed to be for them.
She concluded, it was about me being there for them all the time. And this is a defining statement.
But I want to push back on that idea of all the time. I mean, as a global star, is all the time even logistically possible? Sounds like an overcorrection.
It does, and you're right to question it. Her career didn't stop entirely.
Not even close.
So maybe her realization simply meant increasing the quality and the consistency of the time she was present, rather than the raw quantity.
It's about being present when you're present.
I think so. And that is precisely the nuance we must acknowledge. The source material notes the resulting behavioral change she initiated, concluding that she started trying to balance that a little bit more.
The key word there is trying.
Yes. This isn't a miraculous, static state of perfect balance being achieved. It's an ongoing, conscious commitment to adaptation. It's a process.
A process driven by the candid, necessary, and probably very painful critique from her own children.
So the honesty is found in the effort, not necessarily in the outcome. She realized the old calculus of provision wasn't working, and she started the long, difficult process of active recalibration.
And that proves that the search for balance isn't a final destination you arrive at. It's a dynamic commitment, always moving, always requiring adjustment.
And that active commitment is absolutely essential as we move into the reality of the teenage years, where that parent-child relationship has to transform entirely.
Right. Which brings us seamlessly to Section 4, navigating independence and the new path of parenting.
The moment you have that critical conversation, you realize the entire approach needs a pivot. The challenge of the teenage years, as she articulated it in the People cover story, is that the nature of the bond changes fundamentally.
The old playbook is useless.
Totally useless. The old familiar playbook of comfort and control, it fails.
She noted that they are not babies anymore, so you can't just take them on your lap and tell them it's going to be okay.
That simple statement, it reflects such a profound shift in communication. Teenagers need validation, they need space, and they need respect for their own problem-solving capacity.
They're moving from seeking comfort to seeking guidance and perspective. They want a consultant, not a manager.
That's a great way to put it. And the language she uses to describe their current phase is vital. She says they are venturing out, they're being their own people.
And that is the psychological moment of ultimate letting go. It's acknowledging that the kids are actively defining their identity, separate from the family unit, separate from the J.Lo brand, and separate from her expectations.
This is the moment where parental insecurity often spikes, even for the most confident individuals in the world.
Why do you think that is?
Well, when a child ventures out, the parent's sense of utility and control diminishes. Your job is no longer to be the constant physical provider or the logistical coordinator.
The job changes.
Your job is to be a secure base from which they can explore and a safe place to return to. You're the home port, not the captain of their ship anymore.
And if they are venturing out, as she says, the parent's role necessarily shifts from setting the path to trying to understand the path they are choosing for themselves.
Which is exactly what she says next.
Yeah.
Lopez encapsulates the resulting parental necessity perfectly. It's us just trying to keep up.
That is such an honest admission of vulnerability, especially for someone who seems to control every single facet of her professional domain. To admit you're just trying to keep up with your own kids.
To keep up requires an abandonment of the traditional position of authority. You can't dictate their emotional landscape anymore.
You have to become a student.
You must adopt the position of a perpetual student of your child's evolving emotional needs and their social realities. You have to learn who they are becoming, not just remember who they used to be.
I think that phrase, trying to keep up, it speaks volumes about the necessary humility of modern parenting.
Humility is the right word.
You are required to continuously educate yourself about their world, their struggles, their technology, their values, and that puts the parent in a position of catching up rather than leading from the front.
Absolutely. And this continuous adaptation, this catching up, is what she views with surprising positivity. She reframes the struggle that's inherent in the teenage years.
She doesn't see it as a fight.
No. She refers to it not as a battle or a struggle, but as a journey and another path you have to go own.
And that positive reframing, that is the crucial piece of emotional wisdom for our listener, right?
I believe so. Instead of resisting the inevitable, the push for independence, she is actively choosing to find the value and the joy in a necessary transformation of the relationship.
It's the realization that while the young child relationship ends, something else begins.
A deeper, more complex adult relationship begins in its place. And ultimately, despite the difficulties and the pain of that initial critique, you're not a regular mom.
Which had to sting.
Oh, terribly. But despite that, she describes the entire experience of navigating their growth and independence as a joy for me.
Which means the emotional investment she made, the conscious decision to prioritize presence over just provision, it paid off.
It paid off by allowing her to forge a new, fulfilling relationship with her near adult children. She didn't lose them. The relationship just evolved.
So the profound so what moment here, the takeaway for everyone is this. The source material validates that professional success and massive achievement do not exempt anyone from the universal struggle of adapting their parenting style.
In fact, it often makes it harder.
Why?
Because the trade-offs are so extreme. The path forward requires continuous, active adaptation, and it has to be driven by the courage to listen to the candid, sometimes uncomfortable, truths expressed by the children themselves.
The balance she seeks is fundamentally dynamic. It's always moving, always requiring adjustment.
It's not about achieving a perfect 50-50 split between work and home. It's about being actively involved in the process of defining what balance means right now based on the current age and the current needs of your child.
It's the dynamic nature that defines the relationship. You can't just set it and forget it.
Never.
You have to constantly be checking the oven temperature, just like she and Emme were checking that cake.
Yeah.
Are the emotional needs rising correctly? Is the temperature right?
It requires that hands-on involvement even when the rest of your life requires you to be wearing towering heels and a silk dress. You have to do both.
Which brings us to the summary of our deep dive today.
Let's bring it all together.
We've covered extensive ground. We've moved from the visual, economic, and psychological juxtaposition of the silk dress and the lace apron
To the deep emotional insights of a mother facing her child's imminent launch into adulthood.
and the primary themes discovered here are critical for any professional. The central nature of presence over provision, the absolute importance of listening to your teenage children's needs, even when their critique is painful and forces a career recalibration.
And the ultimate necessity of finding genuine joy in the difficulty of letting your children find their own identities.
This dive into Jennifer Lopez's specific high-profile experiences, it really reveals a universal and ongoing truth.
Which is that the pursuit of balance is relentless. The core challenge for any driven parent, regardless of career status, comes down to that conflict.
The conflict being.
If the children are venturing out and becoming their own people, as she noted, how exactly do we ensure we are keeping up with their evolving emotional needs and their specific definitions of love and consistency?
All without sacrificing the professional identity we've spent our lives building.
That's the question.
It's a powerful final thought for you to mull over. The sources suggest that the answer isn't in retreating from your career or attempting to become a regular mom defined by outdated standards.
No, it's about seeking that constant active balance, a balance that is primarily driven by candid, open communication.
And the radical willingness to let your children define what being there actually means to them at this specific fleeting moment in their lives.
It's the willingness to be corrected by the very people you are trying to lead. That is the mark of true emotional adaptability.
It is about learning to be led by the needs of your family, even when you are accustomed to leading the world.
Perfectly said.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.